Hi guys, welcome back to AFTV News Daily. I'm here with Dan. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good, James. How are you, man?
Yeah, good to have you. We've done one show, I think, together before. Yeah, here's our second.
Yeah,
we're talking about Saliba.
I'm looking forward to this, man. There's some good topics today to talk about, considering that, we've got a bit of a break now. There's a lot that's happening in the world. So,
yeah, do you know what? I was planning the show, obviously. We don't know the day before what the news is going to be or whatever, and there I am at 3 o'clock thinking, what are we going to talk about today? And then Fabrizio Romano tweets, and that's always a show worthy tweet, but it kind of developed into other discussions I think we can be having around Arsenal. And it's the international break, so Arsenal always giving us news to talk about. But just quickly, how are you, mate? How's everything going?
Very good, mate, if I'm honest with you. I mean, obviously channel's going well with Lead Judges. So me and Lee are running Lead Judges TV. That's all going really good, man, and keeping myself busy at work. And coming up here, I always love doing News Daily because, and I like doing it with different people, whether it be yourself, Turkish, Robbie, Cecil, whoever it be. So, I was free tonight, so I'll come down.
Good stuff.
So I'm all good, man.
Maybe we'll have a Dan and Lee takeover at some point. Actually, that could be quite good.
Don't do that.
Imagine that.
I have to work with him enough, man. I don't want to do that.
Fair enough. You're getting some compliments on your haircut as well, by the way. Lovely.
Man, it had to go. I tell you, this is what Arsenal Football Club does to you, man. You just got to get it gone.
Mate, I was ill for 3 days, so that's what Arsenal Football Club does to you.
That's worse.
I was meant to go to Brighton. Went down ill. Obviously, I took my COVID test, all negative. But I was thinking, Saturday morning, am I all right? Can I kind of shake this off? And I wasn't really shaking off. Then I saw the weather and I thought, it ain't happening. Even Robbie was like, it's not going to do you any favours. So anyway, that's
soaking wet, wasn't it?
Yeah, weather-wise. But fair play to you guys for doing the journey. All right, guys, we are here to chat about. Oh, people ready? Sorry, I've seen this. Before I talk about what we're going to chat about, someone's asked me, James, where are your glasses? I've lost my glasses.
What?
I've lost them.
How, man? How does that even happen?
I don't know. Maybe that's why I got ill. I don't know. I lost the glasses and then I got ill. I don't know if there's something in that. But I've lost them. It's been a tough time, and I'm going to have to get new ones. So thank you for noticing in the comment section. Anyway, what are we here to talk about? William Saliba. I mean, we're going to go through Fabrizio Romano's tweet and we're going to break it down. But essentially, the story is Arsenal are really happy with William Saliba. He's going to be in the plans next year. This kind of whole load of loans that people were wondering if Arsenal didn't know what to do with him, supposedly all part of the plan. And I just think it's generally very, very encouraging news from a position where Ben White, I think, has done okay recently. Well, actually, I'll go as far as to say he's done well. But there's, we're seeing Saliba do well in Marseille and people are thinking, what are we wasting such a good talent on? Anyway, it looks like it's going to be a part of the plans, but obviously you must be happy about that.
Well, I'm really happy about it. My problem is, James, I wanted him to be part of the plan this season, and as much as I was okay with the Ben White signing, it doesn't bother me how much we spent on him personally. He's an Arsenal player and that's the money you had to pay for him to get him, and if you want him, that's what you got to do, isn't it? Is get him no matter what happens. I just really wanted to see William Saliba because all I'm being told is that he was one of the best players in terms of prospects in St Etienne. He was better than Fofana, who's had a great career at Leicester already in the early days. He was definitely the player of the season when he came to Nice. And then obviously at Marseille, he's putting up trees again. So everywhere he's gone in France, he's been fantastic. I'd love to see him in England. And as much as I appreciate it's a different league, he's showing signs and attributes, in my opinion, that I think we were lacking last season. So Ben White's a good signing, and I don't want to take it away from that. But he is definitely, in my opinion, from what I've seen and what I've watched, because I've watched some French football since he's been over there, he is a better defender than Rob Holding, mate, and Callum Chambers. So it's absolutely fine having Ben White and Gabriel. When one of those gets a knock, we've got to bring Pablo Mari or Callum Chambers or Rob Holding back into it. I would rather see William Saliba come into it. My only question mark is, how long is his contract with Arsenal? Because I don't know how many years he's got left, because if he's got a future, he's going to have to come back and sign a long-term contract, because we've had this guy for, 3 years?
Well, that's the wild thing. So I think it's a 5-year deal. And that means when he comes back, he should have 2 years left.
Right.
Now, I think it's good that we are at the beginning of October and there are already early signs from the club and things being, coming out in the media to suggest that Arsenal, are very aware of what's going on and that they're really happy and just confirming their position on the player very early, because you don't want him to have a storming season, get to March or April and there's question marks, is he going to be a part of it or not, and what does his future look like? And suddenly clubs are coming in for him. And suddenly he's thinking, I'm not going to sign a new deal. And that 2 years left starts to become a bit of a problem. So I'm encouraged by the signs I've been seeing, or hearing anyway.
Yeah, I am, and Romanov really gets it wrong, to be honest. So that's good when people like him are coming out. But what I will say is that this mentality and attitude situation with Arteta worries me, because he doesn't like that style, does he? That kind of immaturity in a player. He's not really an Arsene Wenger coach who takes a Van Persie, who was an absolute nightmare, and matures him. Takes, I believe Mikel Arteta was a little bit like that when he was a youngster, and he was. So you'd like to think that he would respect that as a player who was once maybe a bit of a rogue, but he doesn't seem to want to have time for that. He doesn't believe that there's enough kind of credit in him trying to nurture somebody like Guendouzi, let's take for example. He kind of did it with Maitland-Niles for a bit. We've seen it with Pepe before. Those type of players that perhaps are hot-headed behind the scenes. I think it's interesting for us not to get too away from the fact that we don't go to training every day. So we don't know what Guendouzi was like. If it's rumours are that he's dicking around behind the scenes, and I think I'm totally with Arteta. My problem is that I can see talent in Guendouzi, and I can clearly see talent in Saliba that I'd like to see implemented into the side, and I'd be worried that Mikel Arteta might not want to do that. So I'm not so sure that even though he's coming back to Arsenal, that we're 100% going to see a William Saliba playing every week, because if Ben White and Gabriel carry on, is there even a place for him in the first team? That would be a question mark.
Absolutely. Let's explore this loan deal more. We've got a couple of comments. Owenden says that I'm like Will from the In-Betweeners movie. I've lost my glasses. Have you seen it?
Ah, I love it, man.
There we go.
Very underrated, the In-Betweeners movies.
Honestly, they crack me up. There's another one. Where was it? Someone suggesting they should start. Oh, yeah. Paulie Boy says, someone start a GoFundMe page for James to get glasses. All right, thanks, guys. I really appreciate the concern. What I am starting to like a little bit about this Saliba situation, we're yet to learn more about it. Next year, actually, in fact, in 12 months' time, when we're 7 games in, we're going to know a lot more about Saliba's role in the club. There'll have been a couple Carabao Cup ties. There'll have been, hopefully, some European football to be played as well. If Arteta, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, but if Arteta came into the club and said, that guy has so much potential, but he's not ready yet, so I want to send him on 2-3 loans so that he's playing and he comes back a really finished article of a player at 21, 22 years old. If Arteta was sitting here and he explained that to you, would you feel better about it?
I would. My only question mark would be, James, do we have the quality in our team to be doing that? So it's fine sending people out on loan, isn't it? That's absolutely great. And I still think we've missed a trick by not doing it with Balogun if we were going to keep Laka and Eddie. But that's another story.
That's a good point, actually.
I'd rather see Balogun playing not under 23s. I'd rather be seeing him up front for Brighton or for Palace or somebody like that.
That's a really, really good point.
Personally. Now, whether he get into those teams is another question, but you get my point. Playing men's football, I want to see Balogun doing. So I want to be seeing Saliba doing that if he's going to sit on the bench at Arsenal. My question mark is when you're competing with Rob Holding, at the time David Luiz, at the time Callum Chambers, even Mustafi was still here ahead of Saliba in his first loan. So why is that? Socrates, again, another one. These players in the FA Cup team that won the FA Cup, Socrates, Mustafi, should they have been playing ahead of Saliba? Maybe, some would say, because Saliba wasn't ready. But when I'm looking at the quality, I'm thinking we've got a real high potentially a highly rated player here that's playing now in France and killing it, and we're stuck with Rob Holding or an injury away from Rob Holding or Chambers. That don't sit right with me. So I understand, and I would say if Arteta said that, I totally get that, and I think that is right what he's saying. He doesn't believe that it's good for him to sit on the bench, so he's giving him a time at France. But I don't feel personally we've got the quality in the side to be doing that. That's just my opinion.
I hear that. PG says, actually spot on. Arteta was wrong for not saying that and explaining the situation to the fans, constantly disregarding the fans. Now, that's not quite the point I was making, but let's explore that a little bit more. When these deals happen, I want to say a little bit like Edu's interview, though there was other things that people didn't like about Edu's interview of late, but if
fair
when
as well.
if when that Saliba deal went over the line and he went to Marseille, if there'd just been something to say, and do you know what, maybe there was and I just didn't quite believe it, but if Arteta had really addressed it and said, look, we really, really rate the player. We think he's got a really great future, but as a centre-back, more than other positions, you need to be playing, and this is going to be an invaluable experience, and we think it's best for him. Maybe people would have taken to it a bit more kindly.
Yeah.
The problem is that's predicated on him actually feeling that way, that he really rates him. So we are playing a bit of a guessing game with Saliba. I think that's where the frustration comes from for the fans.
I think what we need from Mikel Arteta and from Edu, but we won't see Edu like that every week. But with Mikel Arteta, we will. It's either lack of transparency or a little bit. We're going to give you a little bit. They don't quite tell you everything, does he? So it's either lack of transparency, we don't know what's going on, or it's, I really rate Saliba. He says it with Martinelli. I really rate Gabriel Martinelli. Can't kick a ball. Yeah. So tell us why he's not going to kick a ball, and tell us why William Saliba's not going to be ready right now. If you don't think he's ready, that's fine, but please explain it. It's like when people have a debate on a podcast or whatever it be. I don't like Mikel Arteta, some people will say. Tell me why. Don't just say you don't like him. And Mikel Arteta does that. He says, I really rate Gabriel Martinelli. Tell me why you rate Gabriel Martinelli, and tell me why he's not playing. Tell me why he didn't come on against Brighton. Tell me why William Saliba is not ready in your opinion right now, but will be in 2-3 years' time. I don't think he goes the extra mile to say that. And whether I don't listen to enough press conferences of Mikel Arteta's in full or not, and he has said that, I may have missed it. But I've certainly not got the understanding from either of those scenarios that I've given that he rates William Saliba and Gabriel Martinelli to see them as future Arsenal stars. I think at the moment he's just said he doesn't rate them enough yet. They're not ready yet.
Well, but that's it. It always feels like it's at times been cryptic. In fact, the one thing I'll say about Arteta is that the last few weeks, do you remember his quotes when he said, this was after the international break, we just signed Tomiyasu, we were coming to the Norwich game, and he said, these have been the best 15 days of my life. And he always, or my career. And he was almost suggesting that this kind of like eye-opening had happened. Like maybe, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that made him, but almost like he'd had this sense of enlightenment, like I know what I've got to do now to make this a success. And I feel like there's always something cryptic about Arteta, and I think that's the reason we're talking about all this is to bring it back to Saliba. It's why we've all felt frustrated when it's journalists telling us he's going to get a chance in pre-season. Then he doesn't. Before a ball's kicked in pre-season, in all the new kit and the new merch, he's straight off somewhere else. And it's frustrating because we've never really understood why.
And I think what's interesting as well is those 15 days of my life comments. This is a guy who's won the FA Cup for the club and lifted it as a manager, and he's deciding to pick the last 15 days of a win against Norwich being the most exciting of his career so far. I found him bizarre, if I'm honest with you. And you are right, there's not enough.
He's trying to make a point, isn't it?
I think that it's one of those backhanded compliments for him. So he's basically, I don't think he's believing that these are the best 15 days of his career, really. But he's trying to say to the fans and to everyone who wants to listen that he believes he's learnt the most in his career in the last 15 days. And then what he wants people to do is go, brilliant, now show me something different. Unfortunately, from that Norwich game, I've seen a North London derby, which I was proud of. And unfortunately, the other two games against Burnley and Brighton had question marks. So I'm still not totally convinced by what we're doing. So that's what I would say about that. But for me, it was just very odd timing to come out with that quote.
Yeah, I agree. We've got a super chat from Daniel says, Arteta and Edu have both said that they rate Saliba multiple times. Let's not go over it too much because we've talked about it, but that's not quite what we're saying. Obviously, whenever a player goes or they sign a player or whatever, the correct, I'm not just going to say PR approach, but the correct thing to do is say, he's still in our plans, we look for, but I'm talking about a genuine explanation, like a genuine, from a football coach, from someone who's trying to help develop Saliba's career, just an understanding for us fans why certain decisions are being made. Because I think when a club spends £27 million, that is generated through us buying merchandise, us coming to the game, and you know, lots of other things as well. I think we're entitled to know and understand why William Saliba hasn't played a professional senior match for the team yet. But anyway, it's neither here nor there really. But anyway, we'll see what happens next year. It would be good though when he comes back. You know, you mentioned Marion Holding as the sort of two backups to White, and Gabriel have started quite well. Saliba's comfortable both right and left. You've got a natural, really good option to come in if he's injured, perhaps.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like if he does come in, then of course he should have to fight for his place. He shouldn't just walk straight into the side like any other player, no matter how good you are. I have more confidence in his potential than I do Rob Holding and Callum Chambers, and Murray at being 28. Is he?
Yeah, he's
29. He is not someone that I see as a long-term planned future as a centre-back. I don't actually mind Pablo Mari. I think he's
like him.
I don't mind him. His positioning's very good.
But this season,
he has started quite poorly. But I think his positioning is good. I don't think he's blessed with pace, but I think his positioning gets him out of trouble like per Mertesacker.
Yeah.
I also think that with Rob Holding and Callum Chambers, these are two players that I think, because they're English, a lot of players love them, and I've never really seen the obsession with them. They couldn't get in the England squad ahead of Chris Smalling and Phil Jones. That says it enough for me, really, at the time. So they're not really the answer. I think they're back up. They're like a fifth choice. Rob Holding's like a fifth choice centre-half for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And Saliba coming in, like you say, can play both sides and has the potential, I feel, to push the other two in, Ben White and Gabriel, more so than the other three.
Yeah, I hear that. I've just got a funny super chat from XD saying, hi James, saw a compilation of you getting cut off while talking during watch-alongs. I think that was AFTV Extra, I think, posted.
Oh, really?
Big up the channel. They said, hope you know that you're the only one that talks sense. That's not true. A lot of people talk sense, but thank you. I appreciate that. It's quite funny. Go check out AFTV Extra. There's there was a clip that was me tried to talk, and I think maybe DT and Robbie and whoever else were going back and forth, but yeah, anyway, it's very good. Anyway, look, we've talked about Saliba. It's funny how the guy hasn't played senior football for us yet, and it's always a real conversation amongst the fans. We'll see what happens in a year's time, but in terms of what the squad could look like in a year, there have been a lot of transfer rumours, despite it being, what was it, October?
Yeah.
4th, 5th of October?
Doesn't feel like the window's hardly shut, does it?
Right, and it never really does, but we're now hearing that Ollie Watkins and Dominic Calvert-Lewin are options that Arsenal are looking at. I don't know if it's for winter or next year, but obviously with Lacazette's contract running out, depending when he leaves, they're the guys being lined up. A different sort of striker to what we've got at the club, or even really different to what we've had at the club for a while, really, when you think about it. Is that position? I mean, do you know what? Before I ask whether that's a position we need to strengthen in, what's your kind of feeling on those rumours? Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, you like those players?
I like both players. I think both are realistic because they're at clubs that I think we could poach them from. Albeit two clubs that I think we're probably going to be potentially competing with this season in Everton and Villa, because they have got squads that have improved. I think both of their managers are extremely highly rated. You've only got to look at what Rafa Benitez has done to Townsend and Gray. I mean, he's turned them into Robin and Ribery, hasn't he? Yeah. All of a sudden. So you look at what he's done there. I think they're definitely going to be up there this season. I think with Aston Villa, you've got Dean Smith, who's brought in players that I think are improving the squad every season. But it doesn't mean they're not going to look at Arsenal and see them as a bigger club. They might look at Arsenal and see that they're not going to be too far off them this season, but they'll definitely be a step forward, in my opinion. So yes, I think they'd both be good signings. Quote me if I'm wrong, both Gooners, I believe. DCL and Watkins, from what I'm hearing, which I was quite surprised about Dominic Calvert-Lewin being a Gooner, but because I thought he was up that way, like living up that way. But Ollie Watkins is.
There were some Watkins quotes when he was at Brentford talking about Arsenal. And then I think with Calvert-Lewin, it was a similar thing, like some tweets, I think. And I think they've got some sort of history of being associated with Arsenal.
And I think that's important because, you know, I like getting Arsenal DNA and I always kind of loved the fact that Carl Jenkinson was around the dressing room, albeit he was never nowhere near good enough. Yeah. He was always a gooner and he loved the best for the club. And I didn't want him in my team. I didn't want him in my right back. But I was okay with him being around the dressing room because I know he loved the club. Yeah. And I always think that's important. So when you've got someone who absolutely loves the club and he's good enough to get into the first team, that's a great thing. Two very different strikers, I will say that. I think Calvert-Lewin is more of the type that we need. Yeah. I think Ollie Watkins is more of a poacher. Got the pace that we need, but I believe Dominic Calvert-Lewin is one of three that I would go for in the summer. We're not going to get him in January, let's be honest, because I feel that Lacazette's coming to an end contract-wise and also Arsenal career-wise. Eddie Nketiah likewise doesn't look to have a long-term future. Balogun needs a loan move, and of course Aubameyang is very hit and miss at the moment, and again it's another story, but I put that down to our style of play, not Aubameyang's quality. Yeah. So if we're going to look at that different kind of striker, for me Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be probably one of the ones I would go for. I wasn't against the Tammy Abraham rumours because I think he had potential to be something that we potentially lacked. He can hold the ball up, he's quite physically good and knows where the net is. but I would have preferred a Calvert-Lewin, and I think that would have made our transfer window a really exceptional one. I like Vlahovic from Fiorentina. I think he's a kind of Olivier Giroud that can play with his feet, as well as and run at goal as well, which perhaps Giroud couldn't do quite as well. So I think that would be a type of striker that I'd look at.
A few comments mentioning Vlahovic.
Vlahovic,
well,
yeah. I really like this kid, and 21 as well. Alexander Isak, another player I like. Both of those two would probably be my preferred options. But if we're going to go for a guy up there to be a man mountain who knows where the net is, Calvert-Lewin, you can't go far wrong. So I'd like that.
I know there's a lot of reasons why Arsenal didn't perform at Brighton, still snuck away with a point somehow, and you cannot blame Aubameyang. There's a lot of reasons. You can look at the manager, you look at the individual performances. Hell, you can look at the weather. I know it's not an excuse, but bloody hell, I mean those conditions, it's tough for anyone. But it felt to me that with a Calvert-Lewin up front, there were moments where we got it up or space had opened, and a striker who kind of imposes themselves, gets the touch right and feeds the midfield, would have helped us get up the pitch and start to relieve a lot of that pressure. And I think that Brighton was a really good example. I'm sort of actually not surprised the rumours have come out on the back of the Brighton game, because almost it's sort of, I don't know how it works with leaking rumours to the media or whatever, but almost just a reminder of we kind of know that if we address this situation, then that Brighton game might have been different. Aubameyang did so well in the North London derby as a hold-up striker, but he really struggled against Brighton.
He did, and I'm not surprised that he struggled against a team like Brighton. Now, this is a real hard one for me because he deserved to play, because he was outstanding at the North London derby. I thought it was a captain's performance, but he could have got man of the match. A lot of people could have got man of the match, to be fair. I thought he was that good. So I understand why he started against Brighton, but I think if you're looking for a hold-up player, we've got two better options than him, one of them being Lacazette. And I actually think Pepe would be a better option in a different way. So I don't think Pepe would hold the ball up like Lacazette in terms of a central striker, but I think he would hold the ball up and keep it out wide. So I think they're the two options we needed to go with, and I don't think we went for neither. And obviously, I think the subs were a little bit late, if I'm honest with you. But certainly when Lacazette came on, it was more of a hold-up style. The difference you've got with Calvert-Lewin as well, ahead of Lacazette, because they're both very different players as well. Kieran Tierney whips in a lot of balls. Calvert-Lewin will get on the end of those. Aubameyang's never been that type of striker.
No,
and to be fair, neither's Lacazette, to be honest with you. He's not one of those who will fling himself at the ball. He can just hold up, it sticks to him, and he brings other players into the play. I think that Calvert-Lewin could do that and also be a threat aerially in the box.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when you look at some of our passing sequences, the areas we get ourselves into, you do think a Calvert-Lewin on the end of this makes a lot of sense. You can see how he'd fit in. And I know a lot across the summer there was a lot of doubts about our signings and how they were improving the team, whatever. With someone like Calvert-Lewin, and by the way, a lot of them are definitely improving the team, but with Calvert-Lewin, or Watkins has shown elements of it, but you look at those players, you think, I understand how you'd fit into what we're supposedly trying to do. My frustration against Brighton was, as badly as we played and as overwhelmingly dominant as Brighton were for a lot of the game, it always felt like the openings were there, and I kept thinking, if we just display a little bit of quality, we're in. And the minute Lacazette came on and his first touch into Thomas Partey gets that right, who then puts Smith Rowe through, I was thinking that opening was there throughout the game if we just got it right. So addressing that position up front is going to be a big thing for Arteta.
Yeah, massively so. And I think that also what Mikel Arteta's got to look at is what style he wants to play, and not just that, the formation as well. Because if you're going to be playing Ollie Watkins up front, that's very different to be playing Calvert-Lewin in terms of a style. So are you going to be whipping balls in? Are you going to be using Olivier Giroud type striker? Or are you going to be going for an Ian Wright? And I think that's the kind of difference. And I'm not for any means saying that either of those will reach those heights, but what I'm saying is, in terms of their attributes and their style, they're very similar to those two players. So when I look at that, I think I'm a little bit old school, James, and I really like 4-4-2.
Yeah.
I really like 4-4-2, and I still would play 4-4-2 now. I would. I'd play that with Arsenal. I'd play Lacazette and Aubameyang up top together with Partey and Lokonga in that middle. And I think that we could do that if we got Calvert-Lewin and Watkins. They could probably play together and form a partnership. I don't think Arteta is going to go anywhere near that. I think I think teams have moved past 4-4-2 now. Some still play it, but I think that if you've got options for both, then it's good. I don't think we've got options for either really at the moment, because we haven't really got a Jermaine Defoe or an Ian Wright type striker. We haven't really got a Olivier Giroud or a Calvert-Lewin type striker. So what we have got is Aubameyang, who scores goals, absolute goal machine in my opinion, still is. It just, I don't think it's working for him because of the style of football. And we've got players that are either looking like they're leaving or looking like they're not quite ready. So we need that position addressed personally.
So talking about positions being addressed, where do Arsenal need to strengthen? I know it's so early. I know we're 7 games in. You know, again, a lot of the criticisms were we've not improved on our first 11 with this latest window. I think we're proving that actually we have improved more than we thought we did. You know, in terms of player-wise and profile and all that. But you know, I know it's early, but looking ahead at next window, if the striker's one position, and I mean, let's be realistic. Let's say he's got a budget of 100 mil or something. I mean, even that would be a big budget, to be fair. There'd be another 100 on top of what he spent already. But let's say he's got 70 to 100 mil, and you're talking 2-3 positions there. Where does Arteta need to? What does he need to address?
Well, let's look at what we have done so far and then look at what I think we need to do. So I didn't think the transfer window was an absolute shambles like everyone said. I didn't think it was amazing, but I certainly didn't think it was a shambles because I think... because I think we've got the positions that I think that we needed filled. I don't think we got them all filled by any means, but we certainly got a lot of them filled. I think a goalkeeper was needed and we got one who's now a number one. A right back came in that no one knew about and has now looks like he's going to be a good signing. We needed a backup left back that was an upgrade on Kolasinac, and I feel like we've got one. We definitely needed a centre midfielder that was an upgrade on El Neni and Torreira replacement, and I think we got that with Lokonga. We needed somebody to replace David Luiz. We got that in Ben White, and we needed a creative midfielder, and we got that in Ødegaard. Now, some of those are underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, but I think some of them have proved us to be perhaps surprises. Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, maybe Lokonga, maybe Tavares, because when he's come on, he's looked good. So as a window, I don't think it's been a shambolic one like some people were saying. Agree. The problem we had was our priority signing was not made because of one man, and that one man has stayed at the club yet again for another season in Granit Xhaka. Now, whether you love or hate him, that's not really by the by. What it was we needed to upgrade him even if he was staying. And that position for me was Bissouma, and that position for me is still the area we need to improve on, because we are a Thomas Partey injury away from being a disaster again. So that partner for Thomas Partey was the most important priority signing, and we didn't do that. The other position I think needs strengthening, of course, is the centre forward positions. And they're the two that I think we look at now and think we need 100%. The other position that I think, if I was to be really picky and look at us being strength in depth wise, would probably be another pacey winger. Because as much as I like Smith Rowe, Saka and Pepe, and I actually like all three of them, I think, and Martinelli, I think that we're lacking in the... We've always had an amazing left winger throughout my time supporting Arsenal, throughout the history of it. You go back to George Armstrong, Graham Ricks, then you look at Anders Limpar when I was growing up, then we had Mark Overmars, then we had Robert Pires, then we had Thomas Rosicky, then we had Alexis Sanchez. Now, I feel like, who is our left winger? We haven't really got one. Martinelli, we want to see there. Saka, I think Pepe is better on the left personally.
I agree.
And Saka on the right. But none of them are like, wow, they're the Alexis Sanchez of our team. And I feel like we could be missing there. Now, that is me putting the cherry on the top of the cake there. But I think priority-wise, centre midfield defensively, like a Bissouma, and a centre forward.
I don't know why the first name was St. Maximin to me.
Wow.
I don't know. I just thought... I
like him.
He would entertain, wouldn't he? I know it's about more than entertaining, but he's the kind of player I'm thinking, or that Doku as well. I don't know. I know he was at Anderlecht, but he's recently moved. I think he's gone to Rennes maybe. But I'd agree. Do you know what? I'd agree with that. I think get the striker in, central midfield, and then if you're cherry on top, you're thinking maybe a left winger. I
mean, of course, the other thing we were looking at is Leno going to stay? Because then we got a goalkeeper issue again.
Then we need another backup.
Do you know what I mean? Either another backup or we get Onana in and let him and Ramsdale fight it out. Do you know what I mean? If that's who we're linked with, because we keep being linked with Onana, don't we? Not that I know much about him, but we're linked with him. But I think St. Maximin's a good shout for somebody. The other one that screams realistic and would love to come in again is Zaha. Of course, who I do still like and rate, and I think he wins a lot of stuff. If you look at his numbers and stats wise, he's not actually as impressive as Pepe, but I liked him. I still like him. Do you know what I mean? He causes a lot of problems. And of course, Dama Traore, but I'm not so sure that things have worked out for him of late. Traore, I think he's somebody that is horrible to come up against, but again, stats wise, not so good. So maybe Zaha for me out of those.
Yeah, I like that. We've got a few nice comments. Chrissy says Dan Potts is total quality when it comes to analysing the game. Big up, man. And then we've also
Thank you, man.
Sam says, Dan, I love you and your points of view.
Oh, mate, look, I appreciate the love,
comment
people.
section are feeling nice. They're still looking for my glasses, which is sweet of them. So thank you. I've had a few more coming in, which is great. Yeah, do you know, it's always interesting. I don't like on the back of a window, sort of 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, immediately going, right, where do we need to strengthen? Because to a degree, you know, we've got another year to see how Balogun develops. Obviously, Saliba comes back. In central midfield, I mean, what does Patino look like a year on from now? What does Miguel Aziz look like a year on from now? And in a dream world, they all do the job. You know, they all develop. I don't know if we've got any good... Amari Hutchinson. Right, so... I would love to spend no money and these guys be the answer. But obviously that's not how, you know, you're always planning ahead. I mean, I honestly think clubs have their windows planned months before they do them. Unless there's a significant injury. I honestly think they've got them months in advance.
Yeah, and I can't remember a time where Arsenal have had this amount of youth come through at one time.
Yeah.
I think certain positions we're lacking. I don't think it would be nice if we had a couple of defenders, a couple of Tony Adams coming through.
Yeah.
We would all like that, I'm sure. With Charlie Patino and Miguel Aziz, what I don't want is for them to be the Saka and Smith Rowe of the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So we're relying on Patino and Aziz to run our midfield.
Yeah.
They need, and we so need, some experience in this team now. I'm all for youth. I'm all for having a young team to get as a generation through. We need a few more Thomas Partys in there now.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
You know, I feel like with some of the signings we've suggested, they're all fairly young again. Maybe a Zaha would have some experience, maybe a Basuma for his age. I don't think he's particularly, you know, a 19, 20-year-old. I think he's got some experience.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
again, we need some experienced heads in there. And what I don't want, James, is to have the generation of Jack Wilshere and Ramseys who then disappeared, the Saka and Smith Rowes then disappear, because Fabregas and Van Persie had such legends to learn the game off of.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And unfortunately, Saka and Smith Rowe are trying to learn it off of Xhaka and El Neni. So we're in a situation where we have to be realistic about what we're expecting.
Yeah.
And if Aziz and Patino are going to come through, then that's great.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be the answer to our midfield. I want them to be learning off of Thomas Partey and hopefully somebody like Basuma moving forward.
Well, let's swing it around, because one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about today, I watched your fan cam. I watched a lot of fan cams after the Brighton game. I was there feeling unwell, and I thought, let's hear everyone else be depressed like I am after that performance. But what was interesting was the theme of style of play keeps coming up. I keep hearing that. What's our style of play? What are we trying to do? A little embarrassing for someone who does Tactical Insight with Graham, who's just like a master. I mean, he understands.
Great show, by the way.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
He understands and knows everything. There's a lot of people are talking about positional play. I think it derives from Spanish juego de posición and stuff. And essentially, what it's supposed to be, from what I understand, is it's about, and guys in the comment section, I'm not actually bantering here. If you have a good explanation for it, please send it through. We'd love to discuss it. I haven't even spoken to you about this. I don't know how much you understand necessarily. But what they're basically saying is that Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, a lot of PSG have been doing this over the years. A lot of great clubs, Bayern Munich, have been basing their style of football off this thing called positional play, which is the understanding of movements and developing triangles and developing what they call positional dominance, essentially, via sheer movement and understanding of where you are on the pitch. I think I don't think it is an incredibly highly intelligent way of playing the game. There's a reason Pep Guardiola spends so much money to have certain players, but there's also a reason why over the years you saw City's left back, whether it was Zinchenko or Delph, bombing on or necessarily coming into midfield while Kyle Walker was sitting back more. It's all about having almost this asymmetrical shape on the pitch, and it looks like that's what Arsenal are trying to do. I don't know if we execute it very well. I don't know if it's something we even can do without even another £200 million of investment. But when you hear that being presented to you, as I have, not so great to be honest, as a style of play we're going for, does it make a bit more sense to you, or are you thinking, nah, not for me?
No, it frustrates me, James, because I want him to implement a style of play. I don't want him to tell us what he's trying to implement eventually. I want him to do it now. I don't want to see these inverted right backs coming in and then they're disappearing and we're playing another style. I don't want to see this high intensity pressure against a North London derby and then we just get out pressed and out muscled and dominated by Brighton, who have had 3 of their best players out. I don't really see a consistency with this team, whether it be in performance or whether it be in style of play. I don't see a style of play. I see glimpses of attacking football. I see glimpses of passing in triangles, and I see glimpses of possession football, but I don't actually see us dominating the amount of chances that I would say Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger created. What I do think has improved us with is our defensive side of the game, but that's through him buying players. That's not through his style of play, I don't feel. I do feel that there's an element to his style of play with us being better defensively in terms of how negative and kind of unattractive we look at times. Because when you're asking Aubameyang, who's, let's be honest now, centre forward, we're looking at Aubameyang being playing out on the left wing back role for a lot of the time last season and wondering why he's not scoring. When you've got an inverted right back, what that does to Pepe is completely isolate him. I want to see Pepe in front of goal. I don't want to see Pepe hugging the white line. So there's so much that I think he is potentially trying to do but getting wrong. But what I'd love to see is something implemented in a few months' time. It's taken him 20 months and I don't know what the hell we're doing. Now, Rafa Benitez has come in and implemented a style with Everton, which is very attractive to watch. You would say that Dean Smith, David Moyes, Graham Potter have all come in, and within a few months you started to see what was happening and they were moving forward with this. I don't see that. And I know there's a lot of people that really like what Mikel Arteta's doing, and I've got nothing against that because they can back up their opinion as to why they think he's a good manager and a good coach and right for us for the future. But what they'd never tell me is what style of play he's got, because they don't know. No one knows what style of play it is. But
if they replied with positional play, if that was their answer, would you go, okay? Or would you go, come on?
I would be in the middle of that because I don't think they would understand what positional play meant, or if they could explain to me in a better terms what it is, then I'd be willing to listen and try and understand it. But also when it's positional play, I would question that is working then, because I don't see us playing that style that you've just explained. I don't see that. And potentially, we're looking at Mikel Arteta might want to play a 4-3-3 in the future. Mikel Arteta is doing what he can at the moment with this team because in the future he wants to do this. He can't even get this right at the moment. Let's not worry about the future. He might not be here in the future. The way we're playing, he might not. He's not convinced me enough to know that he's going to be our manager to take us forward. So let's convince me by playing a style of football which I think, one, is attractive to watch, and two, is showing progress. Because I don't actually mind if we win 1-0 for the rest of the season like we have been, because that means it's a results business and we're winning. But we do actually need to know that, wow, the way we're playing, it doesn't matter who we're going up against, we've got a chance of winning. And I don't see that at the moment, because we played like we did against Brighton, against Liverpool, we get smashed. If we played like we did against Burnley, against Manchester City, they'll beat us 5-0 again. So show me progress as to what you've learned in the last 20 months, and I'm not so sure he has. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that when you play Granit Xhaka against Villarreal at left back and play a false 9 in Smith Rowe, that it's not really going to go right for you. When you put Thomas Partey on his own in midfield, he is going to find it very difficult. Who is actually our best player, and when he plays well, we play well. Those sort of things aren't hard for me to work out, but for Mikel Arteta, unfortunately, he's found it difficult. Now, people think I hate Arteta. I don't hate Arteta. I really want him to do well because it means that Arsenal start winning games and I can be happy again. What I get frustrated about is when I see the same stuff happening and I see the same mistakes. And this goes for players as well. So I wasn't a fan of Mustafi making the same mistakes every week. I've never been a fan of Granit Xhaka because you're going to get a good performance and then 2 or 3 mistakes throughout the season that cost you points in games of football. So I've never been a huge fan of that. Don't make the same mistakes. And when I'm seeing the same style of football, or lack of style of football, that is what frustrates me. Now, there was a time probably around the FA Cup where I actually quite enjoyed watching Arsenal because we were going 3 at the back. We were playing a kind of counter-attacking style of football, and it actually ended up winning us the trophies that we thought we were never going to win in terms of the FA Cup, particularly that season. And we've never really seen this revert back to that against any of the teams since. Man City, Liverpool, likewise. We've just tried to set up against them and got smashed. So I don't feel like he's showing me that he's learning, and I'm not convinced moving forward that after a win against our bitter rivals in the North London derby, that we then go to Brighton with all of the positivity in the world and see a performance that was so lacklustre, boring to watch, unattractive, and then all people do is blame the wind and the rain. I'd rather actually look at what we were doing on the pitch performance-wise and say, this manager got it wrong here. I don't think that we should be disappointed by leaving with a point, because I don't think we deserved anything more than that. But that's not my point. My point is the performances. And sometimes, James, you have to look at the results are great, but are the performances good enough? Because results only take you so far, because you will come unstuck. So we need to up our performance and implement a style of play that all those teams I've just said have done. That, people say that other teams have better players than us. I would agree to a certain degree. Some of them do have. But I don't think that West Ham's squad is better than Arsenal's, but they play better football than us. I don't think that Leicester's actually is better than Arsenal. I think they've got 5 or 6 players that would walk into our side. But I actually don't think that, because of the lack of style that we're playing, players like Aubameyang, Pepe, I don't think they're playing at their best. And I think other managers can get the best out of them. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. We've got a few interesting comments. Jake says, if you watch the Last Dance documentary on Michael Jordan, it shows that the Chicago Bulls were using the same triangle dominance tactics in the 90s. I don't know if you've seen that documentary.
Loved it.
But yeah, it was really good.
Absolutely loved it.
I started it. I need to finish it. Do you know what? I want to start watching it tonight.
Mate, it is so... And just quickly on that, while you brought it up, when you watch that, and if you haven't watched it, guys, watch The Last Dance. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Think of the Invincibles while you're watching that.
Right, okay.
And you'll see the links, mate, because they broke up. They just split, just like the Invincibles did. And they could have gone for another couple of years, the Chicago Bulls. And you'll see the Scottie Pippen, who's the Dennis Bergkamp, the introvert. You'll see Michael Jordan, who's the Thierry Henry. Yeah. You'll see Dennis Rodman, who's the Vieira or the Keown. You'll start to see that. You'll be amazed at how at the links.
Well, that's my Tuesday night sorted. Vishal says, yes, James, the father of positional play is Marcelo Bielsa, comes from the Cruyff school of playing. We are definitely building our play on that philosophy.
Great point.
Touch of Awesome says, we rarely play triangles, and the amount of times I watch an amazing run by Oba, Saka, Smith Rowe, and the midfield don't find them is so annoying.
Yep.
Diego says, in my opinion, the reason we don't see a style of play because he overcoaches the team. He doesn't let the team express themselves. Remember, football is art. Now, it's so interesting because it's easy for fans to recognise a press. It's easy for fans to recognise even tiki-taka, quick passing football, high intensity. It's easy to identify wing play. But it's difficult to identify something like positional play, supposedly, or I think anyway. If you're not a team that dominates, if you say our style is positional play, and then Brighton outrun you and overwhelm you for 90 minutes, it's difficult to recognise what we're trying to do. But you do see moments of it where Burnley we weren't great, but the goal comes from, I know it's a free kick, but the build-up that wins us a free kick comes from Odegaard dropping into a position you wouldn't expect, threading a lovely ball into Saka, who's in a number 10 position, which he's vacated because Tierney's overlapped. So that is positional play at its best. It's working. The reason Saka's in that role is because Odegaard's vacated it and Tierney's moved into his. So the whole point of positional play is to develop dominance in areas and triangles and open space via clever movement. Now, there was a position, I think I've got it right in my head, that was invented to describe what Thomas Müller does at Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. So they call him a Raumdeuter. Okay. And a Raumdeuter means space invader. Big up Tifo. I watch Tifo videos and they explain everything brilliantly. And the reason was that when people look at Thomas Müller, they go, well, he's good at passing. He's not a great passer. He's a good finisher, but he's not a great finisher. He's got skill, but he's got a bit of pace. But what's his thing? Where do you play him? What's his... And the reason he's always been in the team is because his understanding of where to be and how to manipulate space and get into effective areas is like elite. Like his brain, his footballing brain is unbelievable. And so he, in a positional sense, encaptures what the style of play is meant to be. It's very intelligent understanding and movement to develop overloads and get into areas where you can be dangerous to score goals. Problem is, well, for all the talking, a lot of you might think, what a load of BS. But for everything I've just said, if you're not pulling it off, it looks very ugly. Have you ever seen Man City, who we know are a brilliant team, but when they're on an off day, and you think, this is such a yawn. It's a bit like that, only they're elite and they can get away with it, kind of. And I think that's what Arsenal fans are wrestling with. Like, what? I don't know what the style of play is, but I think we do know. We're just not very good at it. Is that fair?
I mean, potentially, yes. And the only thing I disagree with is I think we do know, because I actually don't know. I don't know what this style of football is supposed to be. I don't know if we're supposed to be one of these knock-it-long teams. I don't know if we're supposed to be a possession football team. I don't know if we're supposed to be a high-intensity, off-the-ball pressure that plays out from the back. I've seen all three of them, if I'm honest with you. I don't really know what we have. Now, sometimes it's not a bad thing not to have a style. Sometimes it's good to implement a different style against each game. I haven't seen that either. So I think that's the problem with it. We certainly have some players individually, though, that can do what you're talking about. Now, Martin Ødegaard, for all that he can do, frustrates me because he doesn't get into the penalty box ever, right? He never does. And that's fine if you don't do that, because what you've got to do is find someone in the box.
Yeah.
But he's not doing that either.
Yeah.
So that's why I get frustrated with Martin Ødegaard, because at the moment he's just showing that he's really pretty on the ball, but don't worry, he's not going to score or assist anybody with it, so just let him have the ball all game. The other position is Thomas Partey, because Thomas Partey is so vital to what we do moving forward. And if you actually compare him to another midfielder in the Premier League, you'll be amazed who I compare him to. But it's Thiago Alcantara.
Okay.
So they look completely different, right, physically and when they play. But when you look at their stats, they're spot on. Right. Every single one is spot on. So Thiago, I know, hasn't been a fantastic signing for Liverpool, but I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be an outstanding signing. Now, he is unbelievable footballer, and he is so vital to how Pep Guardiola was playing in this positional play. So that could be that if he wants to play this, Mikel Arteta, that he uses the players in Thomas Partey and Martin Ødegaard to use that. Yeah. And I think some goals that we have seen from Arsenal, whether they be in big games or perhaps the so-called easier fixtures, have been a pleasure to watch. And I think that I can go back to last season, the Saka and Smith Rowe goal against West Brom.
Yes,
was fantastic for that, because you saw this positional play being used and abused, and it was fantastic. There was a goal that was scored, I think, from in the Wolves game last season that was fantastic as well. Yeah. So I look at some of them and I think I'm happy with this. Southampton last season away, some great goals that were there. Leicester away. Yeah. So we have seen some great goals. It's not that these players or this style or this manager can't score good goals for Arsenal, because we can. We've seen them. We just need to see more of them. And I know what Arsenal's going to... I might not know what Arsenal's going to turn up, but I certainly know how they're going to play. Yeah. And that's how I felt at the Invincible season. That's how I felt majority of the Emirates era under Wenger. And certainly under Unai Emery, I knew at least that we were going to be attacking. But trust me, we will definitely concede 2 or 3 goals each game, because at the back we're poor. Now I feel like the other way round. We might not concede, but we ain't going to score 2 or 3 goals. Yeah. And that's probably the worst way round that we could have.
No, I do get what you mean. By the way, I think it's Space Interpreter. I said Space Invader. I mean, basically... point is, it's understanding space. But absolutely. Zuko says, James Muller pulls players out of position, creating space for the whole team. He's the best at it, in my opinion. I get what you're saying, and I think it was Sam Dean, journalist, who tweeted, this was back when Arsenal were really struggling. I think they just lost to City. And he tweeted something like, for Arsenal to score, a lot has to go right. Almost everything has to be perfect. But for Arsenal to concede, a lot has to go wrong. Not a lot has to go wrong. It kind of feels like it's easy to score against Arsenal. Now, obviously, since Gabriel's return, Ramsdale coming in goal, White being paired with Gabriel, and Tomiyasu coming in, we definitely look a different outfit, there's no question. Or at least at the back anyway. But the point of, like, you watch Arsenal and you do wonder where a goal is coming, because at Leicester, it might be Soyuncu gets his head on it. It might be Vardy runs to a ball over the top. It might be that Tiedemann hits one from distance. And it might be some really crafty football from Maddison, Perez, Harvey Barnes. They've got different ways of scoring. I know Leicester aren't in great form, but I think we can compare ourselves to them, because what they've done the last 2 years is the level Arsenal should at the very least, aspire to be this season. And you see that they seem to have different weapons they can kind of call on. They've got different ways of scoring. And when I look at Arsenal and the goals we have scored this season, the build-up's always been very similar. The way we've got to goals has always been quite similar. And I think Arteta needs to make us more dangerous from set pieces. Give us the ability to just go long over the top sometimes if we have to. And I feel like Arsenal are just a little bit too predictable still.
I think we are predictable, but what worries me more is that I don't put it down to the lack of quality in the front men, because if you think about it, James, we've got the most expensive front 3 players in the league. Lacazette, Pepe and Aubameyang are the most expensive in the league, front 3, right? Yeah. So we can't say they're not good enough. Yeah. Saka and Smith Rowe everybody loves. So, and we've got Martin Ødegaard to add to that now as well. So is it a lack of quality, or is it the manager not getting the best out of them? And the reason I think it's the manager not getting the best out of them is, let's take Aubameyang for example, right? Unai Emery, Arsene Wenger, Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp managed to get at least 25 to 30 goals every season out of Aubameyang. Last season under Arteta, what did he get, 15, 16, something like that? So there's an issue there. That's not Aubameyang's now rubbish and he's come to the end because he's not that old yet. No, he's not 38, is he? So he's not coming to the end where his legs are gone. He's still got pace and he can still score goals. But we're not getting him in the positions to score goals anymore, in my opinion. Now there is some chances he's fluffed and that happens, but actually he's probably one of the most clinical that we've had in the last few seasons. Yeah. So you don't just turn that off. So every manager has managed to get something out of him in terms of a goal ratio that this guy can't. Then I look at Saka and Smith Rowe. They got 7 goals combined last season between each other. Now, people are relying on those two to score us the goals and take us forward. I think that's unfair because, one, they're young. 2, they've not proven they can score goals and their end product's still pretty poor in my opinion. And also, I don't think that this style of football, or lack of style of football, is allowing them to get into the amount of positions that I think they should be getting into. Because they're getting into 1 or 2 per game. They should be getting into 5 or 6 with their quality.
Yeah.
Pepe, that's why I don't think he deserves the criticism that he gets, because he's still our most threatening player. And look at the numbers, he leaves everyone else dead in the water. He's our best finisher, our best scorer last season. Their back end of last season, he was outstanding. So I think we could get a lot more out of Pepe if we played a system that works for him. I think Aubameyang needs to fit into that system because currently he's not under Mikel Arteta's reign. And I think Saka and Smith Rowe are getting a lot of hardship, and maybe even Ødegaard at times. And I think he could create a lot more in terms of assists, certainly. But we need to change the style of football. Now, I'm not a genius about knowing what that style is and knowing where we go from here, but I just think we need to be allowed to express themselves more flair, more creativity will come with that, and you will get more goals because the quality is there. I just need to see Arteta implement that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good name. Keep it simple. Says all this positional play at the expense of a player's natural instinct, it's boring. Yeah, I think when I watch Arsenal, there's a lack of instinct. And I remember Thierry Henry saying that Guardiola, when he coached them, he said he split the pitch into thirds, and the first 2 thirds from goalkeeper through to midfield was Guardiola's job. This is my job to help you get from one end to the other. Once you're in the final third, he said, that's your job. It's your job to score. It's your job to create. It's your job to make it happen. And I don't see that with Arsenal. I still see a side that even in the final third look overcoached, look like they're trying to do what's been instructed of them. They look like they're trying to remember what was I told here. And sometimes it works because look at Smith Rowe's goal in the North London derby. Saka drops a shoulder, puts it into an area that I think he knows from training Smith Rowe's or someone's going to be there because we've worked on it. And there have been a lot of goals from cutbacks in the Arsenal kind of Arteta era because he's worked on that. He's worked on the overlap, the beating your winger, getting wide and cutting it, but not just putting it into an aimless area, but actually cutting it back and finding someone on the edge. That's great, but when it works, it looks nice and we love it and we enjoy it. But when it doesn't, it can feel frustrating. You're thinking, try something else. So it's going to be interesting whether this comes together more as the season goes on, whether the addition of Calvert-Lewin and Bruno Guimaraes or something from is he at Lyon, I think, whether those players come in and suddenly it all clicks. I don't know. I think we've improved since the start of the season, obviously. I mean, the results would tell you that. And I see a team that I like a lot more than the teams I was seeing going out last season. But I'm still very unsure about this approach. It feels we've put all our eggs in one basket and it feels a bit risky.
It does that, and I think for all those kind of Arsenal fans out there who are a little bit either... Listen, there's some that are Arteta out already, there's some that want him to stay in and believe in him, and there's some that are a little bit on the fence and a bit unconvinced about what they see him. I think what we need to ask ourselves is, why are these players being restricted? Yeah. And if not, then are they just not good enough? Because I would argue that they are good enough. Because I think Aubameyang's proven that. Pepe has. I think Lacazette has up until now. Obviously, this season looks like he's probably going to be a bit part player. But certainly Ødegaard, Smith Rowe and Saka, everybody's raving about. Martinelli likewise. So it can't be that they're all bad players all of a sudden. So the next answer must be that we can't get a style of play to implement to allow them to be creative and score goals. And that has to be down to the manager for me. Yeah,
I agree with that. Well, listen, we've tackled a lot today. From Saliba to positional play to new signings and the development of the squad going forward. Let me just get up the Fabrizio Romano tweet just to remind ourselves of the main news of the day, what was said. So Romano tweeted at 20 to 4 today UK time. He says, Arsenal are following William Saliba's progress closely. They are really happy with the French centre-back. Arsenal told Saliba weeks ago that they trust him 100% for the future. He joined Marseille on loan to play all the games as a starter. Then he'll be back. I think that's positive news, isn't it?
100% it is, and I honestly believe that the hype this guy's had, it must mean there's a player in there, and that must be good for our future if we're going to be here. Of course, I have question marks on what our future looks like at the moment. I'd rather concentrate on now. But when you have young players like that doing well, I hope he has an amazing time at Marseille, because that gives us more hope that he'll probably come back and be a part of our squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, as always, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Dan.
Cheers, James.
Always good to have you on. I'm sure we'll have you on later in the week, next week, whenever it is.
Top man.
And go check out Lee Judge TV. We're going to find Dan and Lee doing all their amazing Arsenal content. Did I see a FIFA show? Was that Dave?
Yeah, Dave's doing a bit of FIFA with Lee Judges as a character in career mode.
No way. No.
It's very Dave, isn't it? So yeah, not my thing. I'm not gonna lie, not my sort of style. I'm not good at FIFA, but a good watch if you like watching FIFA.
Good. That is so good. I didn't know that. Brilliant. Well, listen, go follow Dan on Twitter as well. What's your at? Is it
at Dan Arsenal 87.
I was going to say.
Before I go, I just want to send condolences to Chig and friends and family. I had the pleasure of sharing a couple of platforms with Chig, doing podcasts with him, and I was really saddened by the news a couple of days ago. So I just wanted to get that in there at the end.
No, absolutely rightly so. R.I.P. to Chig, and yeah. It's young Arsenal fan, content creator as well. Yeah. So absolutely sending our condolences. Listen, thank you so much for joining. Always great to chat. Saliba, Arsenal, all that. Let's see where we are in a couple of weeks' time, because we've got, it's not next week. It's not next weekend. We're back.
A bit of a break now.
Yeah. That Monday, so we're going to watch everyone else play, and we'll be sitting there enjoying it maybe, but probably nervous for Arsenal coming up.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Guys, as always, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Buyers Premier League show, which came out yesterday. Tactical Insight with me and Graham as well, if you want the lowdown on how Brighton managed to stop Arsenal from really doing anything for 90 minutes. Might not be a pleasure. We tried to make it fun, and hey, we came at the point in the end. So yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for joining, and catch you tomorrow.